President Trump are increasing tensions with two U.S. trade partners. As of today, 50% tariffs are officially in effect for Brazil.
Brazil, as an example, has been.
President Trump is using the economy as a political weapon. He's been saying that tariffs are about leveling the playing field.
About 40% of our coffee comes from Brazil. We can't grow coffee here. There's only 2 states that can grow well, 2 places in the U.S. that grows coffee. One of them is our territory, Puerto Rico, and the other is Hawaii. I wish this wasn't happening, especially to small businesses at this time. Then when you add tariffs possibly on top of that, then you know your cup of coffee may double. What if your morning coffee was about to become the next casualty of a global trade war? One quiet morning, as millions of Americans filled their mugs, Washington unleashed a 50% tariff on all Brazilian coffee imports, shattering a supply chain that had run smoothly. From the lush hills of Minas Gerais to roasters in New Jersey, thespians fueled everything from small-town diners to global brands. Overnight, that rhythm collapsed into political brinkins. The real shock wasn't that tariff, it was Brazil's defiance. "I will not humiliate myself," the president declared in Sao Paulo, refusing any negotiation. In Brasilia, defiance was just a statement, was a warning shot across Washington's bow. The United States market blinked. Brasilia, defiance wasn't just a statement. It was a calculated punning move in a trade war that Washington no longer fully controlled. It was a direct challenge that left Washington scrambling for a counterpunch. Almost instantly, traders shifted contracts, roasters scrambled to protect blends, and cafe owners asked the same question. If not here, then where will Brazil's coffee go? It's quite possible that this coffee jest isn't going to come to the United States. Early signs point north toward markets with fewer political risks and steadier profits. For the United States, it's a wake-up call. For Brazil, a chance to redraw the coffee map. For consumers, it could mean paying more for less with your favorite blend replace. For you realize it? I know that. You know prices are going to go up, stay with us, because the next chapter in this brewing battle may change your morning cup forever. One trigger changed everything. On August 1st, 2025, Washington's 50% levy on all Brazilian coffee turned an unsustainable supply chain into a geopolitical fault line. Brasilia didn't blink. "I will not humiliate myself," the president said on August 2nd, sending traders toward root contracts and roasters toward think blends. To grasp how hard this hawk could hit the United States market, start with the scale of America's coffee habit. Fresh data from United States Department of Agriculture, updated August 10th, 2025, shows that the United States consumes over 24.5 million bags of coffee annually. Worth roughly $3.72 billion, averaging 10.88 pounds per person, around 30% of that more. Then 8 million bags comes from Brazil, placing the South American nation firmly in the #1 supplier spot among more than 70 countries exporting coffee to the United States. Domestic coffee production remains negligible. Limitado niche regions like Hawaii and parts of Southern California, where output is seasonal and priced as a high-end specialty product. For the world's second largest coffee consumer, imported, supply is not a luxury, it's aliphaline. Brazil's role in that lifeline goes beyond raw volume. Its standard Arabicabians have been the foundation of mass-market blends for decades, underpinning whose known names like Dunkin', Tim Hortons, Starbucks, Maxwell House, and Kirkland. Brazilian coffee is prized not just for its consistency, but for its ability to deliver quality at scale at a price that works for commercial rows. Explains Laura Gomez, senior analyst at Euromonitor International. Yet now, with the new tariff layered on top of a 12% jump in global oil and transport prices, just in July, the cost of importing Brazilian coffee to the United States has risen by 25 to 35%, depending on contract size and signing date. On paper, those figures may seem at the supermarket shelf, they are anything but. A pound off standard ground coffee that sold for $6.90 to $7.10 earlier this year now averages $8.13 nationwide. In high-cost states like California and New York, many brand shave crossed the $9 threshold. For a family consuming 3 to 4 pounds a month, that's an extra $36 to $60 a year. My customers are mostly everyday coffee drinkers, says Rick Walters, 54, who runs a small grocery in Ohio. They grumble, but they're still buying Forno because they can't find anything as affordable that tastes the same. But price is only part of the problem. Even if American consumers are willing to pay more, the volume of Brazilian coffee reaching the United States is already falling. In the first week of August, Brazil's Coffee Exporters Council reported an 18% year-over-year drop in shipments to the United States. This is due to a production shortage. Brazil still accounts for over one-third of global coffee output. Because that tariff has wiped out its competitive edge in the United States bulk commercial segment for Marcelo Tavares, head of a growers cooperative in Minas Gerais. The math no longer works. When you add the tariff, we can't compete on price in the low-cost commercial market. Selling to the United States now is breaking even, if not a loss. Exporters are pivoting rapidly. Just 3 days after Washington sentenced, China granted export licenses to more than 220 Brazilian coffee firms, targeting a billion-strong market. The European Union, South Korea, and Japan have also moved quickly. In Germany, retail giant Ruva signed a memorandum of understanding with a cooperative that once supplied United States roasters, paving the way for long-term deals. Still, no single market can absorb the United States share overnight. The sudden dislocation of such a critical link in the coffee chain has sent shockwaves across logistics networks. Every Brazilian bean passes through a dozen hands, from farmer to local transporter, port workers, shipping lines, importers, warehouses, roasters, and finally, cafés or supermarkets. And one break in the chain can ripple through the entire system. This disruption is forcing United States importers, specialismal and medium-sized enterprises, to look to alternative sources, such as Ethiopia, Vietnam, or Indonesia. None of these countries have the same scale of ready-to-ship commercial grade F as Brazil. Switching suppliers means renegotiating storage contracts, shipping schedules, and roasting process, each step adding cost and risk. We tried Vietnamese Robusta to fill the gap, says Linda Chen, owner of a small batch roastery in Seattle. The flavor is different, and our regulars not as right away. To keep them, I've had to eat into margins. Well, less them. And for many of these shop owners, protecting their blend is like protecting a piece of their customer's morning cup. Familiar, comforting, and no, under threat. As these adjustments fold, the United States coffee sector finds itself in unfamiliar territory: higher prices, tighter supply, and an increasingly fragmented sourcing strategy. What was once a stable, predictable pipeline from Brazil to American consumers is now a costly and uncertain gamble, reshaping the way the industry thinks about its most essential ingredient. One tariff, 1 week and decades off coffee trade unraveled. Switching coffee suppliers in today's market is proving to be far more complex than it sounds, especially for roasters and retailers dependent on low-cost commercial-grade beans. Even if an alternative origin is found, every link in the chain has to be rebuilt. Storage and tracks must be renegotiated, shipping arrangements repriced, and roasting profiles recalibrated to account for differences in bean size, density, and moisture. Every new shipment introduced Cisca, and every late delivery forced price tags to be rewritten. Those realities are already landing squarely in the United States consumer's wallet. As of August 10th, 2025, United States Department of Agriculture retail price tracking shows the average pound off ground coffee selling for $8.13, $1.15 higher than in January. For the Million Show, drink 1 or 2 cups a day. That's an extra $6 to $10 each month. A family going through 4 pounds monthly will spend really $48 more over the year. If their taste runs to premium organics or specialty blends, the increase is closer to $100. That's a tank of gas or a couple of winter heating bills, says Patricia Lane, a single mother in Michigan. The 16% jump since spring, ice outpacing price growth in staples like milk, rice, and eggs, turning coffee from a quiet pleasure into a line I attempt that some households are starting to coot. The impact is rippling unevenly. Large chains like Starbucks and Tim Hortons face significant ingredient cost hikes. But analysts at TD Cowen estimate Starbucks will absorb the hit. Roughly a half-point drop in its North American profit margin, or hundreds of millions annually through scale and brand loyalty. Dutch Brothers, which sources over half its beans from Brazil, could see costs climb by 1.3%, profits dip by 0.5%. But for the tens of thousands of small independent cafes scattered across suburban strips and rural main streets, the shock is existential. They lack negotiating teams, diversified supplier networks, or marketing budgets to offset the blow. More than half of these cafes rely on Brazilian beans for their house blends. Mild, versatile, and priced to keep razor-thin margins intact. Brazil isn't just quantity, it's really ability and roastability, says Tom Reynolds, owner of a 20-seat cafe in Kansas. With the tariff in place, his distributor raised prices nearly 40%. In nearly August, he switched to a cheaper Robusta from Southeast Asia. Butte regulars immediately noticed the flavor shift. It was like losing the soul off shop, says sales dropped 18% in 3 weeks, and he's cut back. Opening our stay afloat. Similar stories are unfolding from coast to coast. In Nebraska, a cafe that for 12 years built its reputation on a 7,030 Brazilian Colombian blend has seen daily foot traffic drop by a third. After changing beans. In Oregon, owner Melissa Hart laid off 2 staff and hauled tapestry menu to cover rising costs. In Florida, Cuban-American cafe that once prided itself on smooth Brazilian espresso now struggles to match customer expectations using a mix of Vietnamese Honduran beans, costing them weakened tourist traffic. One tariff. 1 week and decades of coffee trade unraveled. According to the National Coffee Association, small shops report an average 12% revenue decline since the tariff took effect before factoring in higher labor and energy bills. But far from these struggling main streets, another player was quietly preparing to seize the moment. Industry experts say the ripple effect isn't just economic, it's cultural. Coffee is an anchor product. When prices spike or quality shifts, it can pull down other categories, notes Daniel Vega, senior analyst at the International Coffee Organization. We've seen bakeries, lose morning customers, bookstores, lose afternoon browsers, all because the cafe next door had to raise prices or change bolts. That erosion of foot traffic especially damaging in small-town America, where a coffee shop might also serve as a meeting spot, informal job board, and local news hub. Politicians shave taken notice. Representative Linda Martinez of California's 12th District, home to dozens of independent rows, hassled for an immediate review of tariff's long-term impact, warning that this policy risks collapsing an entire year of our food service economy while delivering no real benefit to domestic growers. Her comments echo those of the United States Small Business Administration, which in an August 8th report urged targeted relief for disproportionately affected by commodity tariffs. Meanwhile, the global market is responding in real time. Arabica futures in New York are up 34% since June, reaching $2.40 per pound, while Robusta prices in London have surged 56% to $1.95 per pound. Vietnam, the world's second-largest coffee producer, has already sold forward much of its 2025 crop to Asian and European buyers, leaving little spare capacity for sudden United States demand. Ethiopia and Colombia face similar constraints, with shipping lead times now stretching up to 90 days for bulk orders. Against this backdrop, Canada's position is starting to look less like a bystander and more like a strategic player. Ottawa has imposed no retaliatory tariffs, launched no protectionist campaigns, and avoided high-stakes negotiation theatrics playing out in Washington. That strategic silence, say trade analysts, is creating an opening in the global coffee supply chain. For Brazilian exporters facing a volatile United States market, Canada's steady, tariff-free environment and robust coffee culture make it an attractive mid-toe. long-term alternative. If you think this shift in the coffee trade is bigger than anyone admits, hit like so we can keep digging. And Canada's role in this story is only just beginning. Industry data shows Canada imported over 111,000 metric tons of Brazilian coffee in 2024, up 7% year-on-year. And projections from the international coffee organizations judge that figure could rise sharply in the wake of United States policy changes for a producer's shutout of its largest buyer. Canada's combination of predictable regulation, strong per capita consumption, and established shed retail channels offers a rare safe harbor. If Ottawa locks even a single decade-long supply pact, the United States could see its coffee dominance collapse within 3 years. If Ottawa sigs even one long-term coffee deal with Brazil, the United States could lose its dominant buyer status in under 3 years. And in that scenario, Washington's role in the hemisphere's coffee trade could collapse faster.